I want to welcome you. My name is Beverly Kaye, and I'm here with my wonderful partner, Susie Walther from Bloomberg, and she is in the back of the room trying to make the slides all come together. So here's what I want to do to warm this up. This is Valentine's Day. I meant to wear a red jacket. That's very nice. So I thought I would just start by reminding you that where Valentine's comes from. I don't know if you know that Valentine was a German-Italian wine grape. It was known as the Valentine grape. And I don't know if you know that the Feast of St. Valentine was named for a clergyman who was imprisoned for performing weddings for soldiers who were forbidden to marry. And before his execution, he wrote to the daughter of his jailer and said, "From your Valentine." So there's a piece of trivia for you to take with you back there. And you know, I always try to make a connect, and Valentine's Day is around, yes, love, and yes, affection, and yes, simply caring for somebody else and letting them know you care. So just for a 2-minute warm-up, because it is Valentine's Day, I put out on all your tables 26 ways for managers to show that they appreciate and care about their people. So what I want you to do, just for 2 minutes, this is from our research on engagement and retention, is graze through those 26. Think about an employee who you care about, whose talent you do not want to lose. And circle one of those that when you go back, you're going to try to do that with your employee. And if you're an individual contributor and do not have employees, circle the one you wish your manager would do for you as a sign of great appreciation. So scan it quickly. Circle the one, I'm thinking of a particular person, and boy, I haven't seen her in ages, so the A, private time with me, really, I'm going to tell her, let's go out for coffee. That's coffee in New Jersey. I'm originally from Jersey, so I love that you talk like me, the people New Yorkers here. So, so what I'd like you to do is just turn to a partner right next to you and tell them which one you're going to do with that employee or which one you would love your manager to do with you. And then I'm going to tell you about some research on this, okay? Go. Okay, let me get you back again. So, if you picked C, an honest talk about the future, E, a chance to grow professionally. G, a chance to talk about the next move. I, nourish my employees' professional interests. O, open a new door for them. Or P, blend your employees' work with their passion. Then you get 5 extra credit points. Because according to the conference board, and this is the data you'll get when you turn in your evaluations, and it's the data everyone is saying, if you want to retain, if you want to engage, if you want to hold on to their talent and their passion, for heaven's sakes, discuss career ambitions with them. The conference board says it this way. Big study, they said, what factors do you think most limit your employees' willingness to stay? Lack of career development. What factors do you think most limit your employees' willingness to recommend your org as an employer? And what Gallup says, that's the most important thing. And limited career development is number 1. So the talk that we are going to do today is about careers. And by the way, those of you who love this and want to use it today and get it back out to managers, if you leave a card, we will get it to you electronically. So dot it with me so you can go back and send it out to whatever managers you want to. So as I said, I have a wonderful partner on this. She's back there making those slides work. And Susie and I had to split the hour. So it's really hard when you both have a lot to say. How do you split an hour? So I want to give you a concept. I want to give you a concept about when slides don't work. There it is. So Chris Argyris, who is, a wonderful OD person in our field, almost a historical figure now. He used the word praxis, and I've always loved it. He said it's the process by which a theory is enacted, practiced, or embedded, or, making a theory come to life. So when Susie and I talked about how we do this, we said, okay, we could schmurgle both our talks and go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Schmurgle is a big word. Or I could go first and give you very fast theory. And then she could come up and say, here's how we embedded that theory at Bloomberg. And that's how we chose to do it. So we both have a limited amount of time to give you a quick idea. Those of you, how many of you were at the pre-conference that I led? So know that we did in 3 hours what I'm going to do in 20 minutes. So I'm going to try not to bore you, but I'm going to give you a couple of slides. And I wanted my slides. Can you go to the next slide, please? This doesn't seem to be connecting. I wanted my slides to be readable. We were suffering a little bit over here trying to read the slides. So here's what I want to start with. Employees globally are saying, if you don't grow me, I am not staying. And I'm smart enough to know that growing me doesn't mean you're going to promise me up. Even though, yes, we're reading about Gen Yers, they want to come in and be the president the next day. Actually, the theory about them says, if you build me a place where my skills are used, where I'm not bored, where I get an ROI on what I deliver, I'll stay. Especially if I have great, this is my phrase, great workmates, because boy, they love their peers, and great play dates, because I want to go out and play with my peers too. As long as I'm challenged, I'm going to stay. So these words, it was the original title I wanted for the book, but it wasn't quite right. It's not the word of a whiny employee. Do me, show me, tell me. We're not talking about those. We're talking about people who are critical to you, who are saying, I'm willing to grow myself, but I can't do it alone. And I know all the org vision statements that say you own your own career, and managers use it as a cop-out. Well, they own it, so I don't have to do anything. Wrong. Managers have to lend support, not answers. not career paths laid out on silver platters, but they have to be in the game. So I believe that, and I've been a career development practitioner for 35 years. So I'm proud to say it's been a long time. I'm as passionate now as I was when I wrote my original book in the early 80s called Up Is Not the Only Way. So it still is not the only way. And now I'm like shouting it from rooftops. I think that, in fact, the development is within every manager's sphere of influence. It isn't something that HR does. It isn't something that's out there. And when Susie comes up, what she's going to talk about first is, well, why did Bloomberg? I mean, Bloomberg's a very interesting organization. Very, very smart people. And what was the need there? And then how did she begin to put it within the manager's sphere of influence? Because I think we have to get managers to realize there are ways they can support, and they don't have to be career coaches or career therapists or anything like that, but support they have to give. So what I truly believe is maybe, and this is what's new. So those of you who know, I wrote a new book. It came out in September. You have the first 2 chapters there. And the title of it was Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go. It's I have a publisher who believes if you don't say it all in your title, not your subtitle, just your title, you don't have a book. So it took me a long time to get to the essence of it. And one of the essences is maybe, just maybe, the wonderful IDP that we all believe in, and I still believe in, it was developed for a reason. It was developed so that every manager sits down with every employee, whether they're virtual or whether they're right there, and says, let's talk about you. Let's talk about your growth. Let's talk about your passion. And maybe what scares managers, the next click, what scares managers is that it doesn't have to be a hard sit-down conversation. It could be frustrating. It could be a dozen short conversations, maybe not even 10 minutes, maybe 2 or 3. That's built into the ebb and flow of everyday work. And I'm going to try to show you a little bit more what I mean. So maybe we take that pressure off the manager's shoulder. Oh, another conversation, 45 minutes to each person. By the time I'm done, I have to fill out the process and everything else. So I'm saying not necessarily forget the form, but let's take the essence of the form and drip it into everyday work. So my notion is it's not quite apples to apples. Maybe it is conversations that are frequent, that are iterative, that are shorter, that are ongoing, and that are actually embedded. So, for example, a project is finished, and an employee turns in the report and says to you, boy, am I glad that's over. You take the report and you say, me too. Next. Instead of saying, gee, what part of it? This is a 30-second. What part of it are you glad is over? What? I thought you loved the research part. What? You hated it? It's like, those of you who know me know I'm all about making it easy. So it's like one step is recognize, oh, you thought that was bad. Not fun. The second is verbalize. Let me see if I got this right. You hated the research part? And then the next is mobilize. In my head, I'm going to remember, she does not like that part. It turns her off, but so-and-so does. Because I asked so-and-so a similar question when she finished her project, and she said, I love doing that. I was really turned on. See what I mean? It's those minute conversations. So I believe that maybe when it comes to the manager's role, talk is the most important commodity you have to share. So when we did the research for this book, we said to employees, and this I'll never forget, we said to employees, so when is it that you had your last great conversation about you and who you are and what you bring? And you know what employees said? Scratched their heads and they said, you know something? It was when my manager interviewed me for the job. Then they said, tell me more about that. Give me an example of that. When did you first do that? All those wonderful, structured interviews that we do, they were really interested in me. And it never quite happened again. So the title in one of the chapters, the subtitle is Make the Interview Last. And maybe we have to remind managers, remember how you got ready for the interview and how you really wanted to know? Well, there's more to be known about her than what you just learned in that quick interview. So I think maybe it's that simple and maybe it's that complex. And again, as Susie talks, she'll tell you what happened as she moved these concepts out in her organization. So I'm all about simple models. And some of you have worked with us for a long time. You know Donna, you know our work, we have a model. You know it from 30 years ago, and it was just, we did up it, pretty it up since then, but we still have. But we believe there are certain steps to an employee thinking about their career and certain things that a manager should do. In its simplest way, it's first about hindsight. Hindsight meaning, so what do I love to do? What do I hate to do? What are my interests? What are my values? What are the conditions under which I love to work? Take time to think about that. I was telling some people last night that I'm working now with a coach who wants me to not think about anything. She's daring me for 5 minutes. Can I clear my mind of any thought? And it's hard. I just want you to look at the trees, look at the, I can't. So I'm working on it. But it's stop, take time thinking about yourself. Second part of hindsight is check out with others. We all play to a career audience, and it's a big one. And it's a big audience of people who form opinions of us without us saying one word. And so check out with that audience how they see you operate. What's your brand? What's your rep? Because something, I think a reputation is going to be worth money because it's based on your rep that I invite you to be on my team. Your brand. Based on your rep and your brand that I get, my rep and my brand, that I get invited to be on your team. So do we know how we're seen by that career audience? And are we doing anything to find out? And if you're an employee and you're waiting till it's performance appraisal time to find out, shame on you. Shame on you. Start asking, ask people for information about how they see you. Ask people how you could do an even better job. The second kind of career information, and the manager has to be able to provide data for hindsight. Let me listen to you. Let me find out more about you. And provide data and say to a person, I think you ought to talk to so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. Because we interact with them all the time. Find out how you can even deliver better service. Foresight means I've got to look ahead. I've got to see what is out there. What are the changes in my job, in my organization, in my profession, in my industry, and in this global economy we all live in? I've got to think about what's out there. There is a great article in the Conference Board, the little magazine they gave you, that just look for it. It talks about key people in our field and what they see the future to be. We all should be trend watchers. We all should be saying what's out there, what's out there, what's out there. And we should be saying not just what's out there, but how does that apply to me? What's the impact on me? What we say in some organizations, we say, look, you can do it this simply. If a manager, with the first 5 minutes of a meeting, said, could you all bring in some headlines from your favorite website, from wherever, from your favorite newspaper, if you're still reading a newspaper, something that grabbed you. And let's just spend the first 5 minutes of our staff meetings talking about what's happening out there. That would be doing some foresight work. And I see individuals just not doing it enough. And you know why? I was telling folks in the pre-conference, Bob Johansen is a Palo Alto futurist, writes beautifully. He's got a quote, and I think he just said it in passing. He said, you have to listen for the future. And you cannot listen for the future if you're deafened by the present. And I thought how often I am deafened by the present in my own organization. How are we doing this month? And how my clients are deafened by the present, by the quarter. And how we get our work, often those of us in the L&D world, pulled out, canceled, because of something going on that quarter, when people most need some of what we have to offer. So it's hindsight, foresight, and the sweet spot in the middle we call insight. And insight means, okay, what are my possibilities? With an S on the end, and then how do I get there? So if we can give it to managers and to individuals that easily and help them ready for it. I hate when organizations say, employees, you own your own careers, go for it. And we never gave them any ideas on how to go for it. In my first career, I was a college dean at schools I never could have gotten into. Let me tell you, we never taught college kids how to go for it. We said, you're bright, 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 you're an A. There'll be an A line you stand in for an A life, and they believe that. I don't think they're quite there now, hopefully. So around all of this, the way we relax leaders is we say, look, you do not have to have all the answers. In fact, you should not have all the answers. In fact, you should not give them all the answers. But what's not negotiable? You better have some great questions. So in the work we're doing, we are arming managers. And let me tell you, being married to a rocket scientist for almost 40 years, they don't know those questions. You know, give him an equation to talk about and he's happy. But give him, you know, like tell me what you love most about your work. And it's hard. And it's hard. It's hard that we have to give it to them. So we'll give it to them so that it's easy for them to surface some really interesting information and then go for depth, go for more. So it's about having the questions. And what I want to... So if I could give you one question to think about, because it's Valentine's Day, but I'm running out of time, to leave with you and to ask people, because of Valentine's Day, go back and ask, it would be, it's my favorite career question, and it would be, I want to watch your faces when I ask it. It would be, when was the last time you said, thought, or felt, I love my work? What were you doing? Who were you with? We'll talk about that in the cab, okay? And you know, and if you really have to stretch, that's something to think about. I can't remember the last time I said it. So that's a question that any manager can ask, even about the last week. What was the best part of last week, if it's too dramatic the way I say it? You know, just what was the best part of last week? I'll bet you managers will be surprised. So, around insight. And Susie is going to talk about how she gets her managers to think about questions. So in this world, in the VUCA world we live in, if there are not enough ups to go around, and there never were, then what? How do we help people grow and feel successful and move without moving up? And let me tell you about moving up. You all could tell me war stories. How many people have we promoted up? And they say, oh, why did I do this? And they don't do well. We know those stories. And you know what the research says? That when we take a great individual contributor, no matter what they're doing, we say, you're so great, we're going to make you a manager. They would rather leave the enterprise than admit it did not work. So we have to provide ways for them to downshift, to stay, to say this isn't working, and we have to welcome that in our organizations. We also have to remember that in the old days, the thing was, if someone moved you 3 times laterally, you were dead wood. So get the message. Now, Sideways is not sidelined at all. Sideways give you another view. Sideways gives you another manager to work with. Sideways is a great way to grow. And then Susie will say more about that too. And I think downshifting. You know, now we're calling it recalibration, and it's saying, I got to move here to get over into this area that's really growing. Because, boy, I see the writing on the wall. That area is going to grow. Mine isn't. And I have to make those moves. And managers who do good foresight conversations can begin to lay the truth on the table. So I think it's all about that. And then finally, my favorite, it's always been my favorite, is how do you grow right where you are? How do you grow without moving? Because the thing that managers fear is, if we're going to do career development, it means a move away from me. And if someone leaves me, all I'm going to get is turkeys that are left. No, you're not. And how do we incent managers for growing talent for the enterprise and not just hoarding them for their own area? So maybe the new mantra is going to be onward and upward, is going to be replaced by forward and toward.